2030.
Saudi Arabia, the Public Investment Fund,
It's a
there's
big
a lot of excitement
It's
around
transformational
specifically.
change. Every aspect of the kingdom, economic, social, cultural, religious.
The 2030.
The 2030.
This is the 2030.
Yalla.
This is the 2030 episode 19. Dr. Hanaa, Almoaibed, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. It's still very, very hot here in the United States, but I'm still here. And we have a terrific episode coming up with Fatima Batook. She is an entrepreneur, CEO of Switz. She's a fitness entrepreneur as well at Fit Studio 55, board member at the Saudi Tennis Federation, board member of your local football club, which you don't root for, Qadisiyah Club. She's a spinning master instructor. This is just such a fun and interesting conversation. Fatima is a global sports mentoring program member. She's been motivating women in Saudi Arabia to lead a more balanced life, blazing trails for future generations of female fitness professionals. This is a great conversation, and she's a friend of yours, Dr. Hanaa.
She is. She's an old friend. We went to school together, and I've worked out with her a lot. She's intense and incredible, and just so, accomplished. She's done so many really interesting things within the field of fitness and sports. I'm really excited to have this conversation with her. It'll be great.
Listening to her, I was basically thinking to myself, there is no way that I could survive one of these fitness programs. So I don't know how you do it, but she is inspirational. And these are the kind of conversations we want to keep featuring on our very quickly growing, we say that humbly, podcast and show, because it's a really great sort of look at how the transformation is happening in Saudi Arabia in pretty much every direction. And like you, Dr. Hanaa, she is very much on the forefront of it. So we are so excited for this. This piece of feedback is from Ali Al-Jasser. We should note too, you guys go ahead if there's any criticisms. We haven't gotten a ton of negative feedback. We just talked about that off the air, Hanaa, but we welcome all levels of feedback, any suggestions. This is from Ali Al-Jasser. Great show, guys. Keep it up. I'm recommending it to everybody that I know because this is a great look at what is happening in Saudi Arabia from two experts. You hear that? Two experts, which is nice. Thank you, Ali, for that feedback. And we do encourage everybody to subscribe to us wherever you're getting it. You hear this at the beginning of every show. We won't go on about it. But if you haven't subscribed yet, it's the best way to get what we're doing right into your face, wherever you are. We can be there, and our newsletter as well is a great way to sort of get this in the background. We will send our updates directly to you, so you don't even have to lift a finger. But it's really, really cool seeing everybody joining this community that we're building. So thank you to everybody doing that. We just love seeing that.
Yeah, please don't forget to subscribe. And if you're not sure how, send us an email, hosts@the2030.com. Drop us a line in the comments on the social media platforms. You can find us and reach us any way, and we will get back to you.
Yes, and follow our page on LinkedIn as well as Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, X. We have little segments going out there. We will always post our full episodes on those programs or on those platforms. And usually LinkedIn is where we post the full program, but on all those platforms, we'll have little segments so you can get snackable bites of content from us. We usually select some of the best quotes and comments from some of our guests or some of the segments that we're doing so that you can kind of stay up to date if you don't have time to listen to the whole show. But we really love to see everybody being part of this. It's so cool and very motivating. And again, if you have criticism or any suggestions, fire them away. We do love hearing and seeing that. I think we should just jump right into this conversation with Fatima. What do you think, Dr. Hanaa?
Let's do it. We're very pleased to welcome Fatima Batook on the main stage today. Fatima has been one of the original pioneers that has paved the way for Saudi women in sports since 2006 and actually before. She created Teema, the first Saudi Arab sports apparel brand in the Middle East in 2012, and established her own chain of spinning and fitness studios across the country and the region. Fatima is on the board of the Saudi Businesswomen's Executive Council in the Eastern Province Chamber of Commerce and sits sits on the boards of the Saudi Tennis Federation and Qadisiyah Football Club. Welcome, Fatima. I wanted to see if you could just begin by kind of setting the scene for us, telling us about your own journey with fitness and sports and where your passion stems from.
Well, I have a long journey and in sport and fitness. And if you've asked me when I was 18 years old or told me that, I'm going to be a reference to female fitness and sports in Saudi Arabia, I would laugh in your face. But it wasn't something that I had intended to get into. And especially at that age is because I was going through my whole personal transformation. And I was morbidly obese, didn't had any thought of fitness or exercising or movement. Even though that I was surrounded with it a lot around me, but I was always in denial of that. And I had the opportunity to go through that transformation and meet so many people who inspired me and motivated me to get into this change. And when I started with that, I started wanting to learn more of it because I realized that everything that I was told to do to lose weight was ridiculous. It was, don't eat, don't do this, don't do that, and it's all about suffering more than anything. And then I think at that point I started like peeling those layers of really comprehending why I ate the way I ate, why I rejected specific things in life. And it was like, a pure healing process more than anything, because people come to me and say, what was your secret? What was your diet? I'm like, was just really getting to know myself and then loving myself and appreciating it. And it's a whole another world. And then fitness played such a big role into that for me to come to that realization, because very few people, I think in my early 20s, this is all when I was 19, 20 years old, at that age would come to that kind of realization. And even people I know who are at my age today in their 40s don't want to face that either. So it's not something easy. And fitness and specifically sports is one of those things that really pushes you to the limit, pushes you to the edge and start making you question yourself and question everything. And you just want to either, move forward or give up on yourself. But I think that's how I started my relationship with fitness and started gaining a lot of knowledge around it and wanted to re-educate everyone who was telling me what to do, what they should be doing. And that's how I started my journey in spinning classes. I'm now actually a master spinning instructor, which means that I can educate other instructors to become spinning instructors. I'm a 500-hour yoga teacher. I've done many different certifications when it comes to boxing, TRX, and everything. So I've tried everything, and then you stick to things that you like, at the end. And it was just really that. It was that personal transformation and the need for me to make everyone else understand. So when I came back with that knowledge, that's where it started. I never thought of it as a career, never thought into getting to a business, never thought of anything. It was just more of, for me, because I needed to maintain it and continue with that journey with myself. And then I wanted people to come on board, and that was it.
So transformation is clearly not a foreign concept to you. And as kind of the kingdom now is embarking on this journey of transformation within the sports industry, there's just been so much development there. How do you view this development? What's really propelling it forward, do you think?
I think just going back to where I was, and when I started this journey years ago, before the transformation, before Vision 2030, it was a time where it was it was like a fight, a struggle. Let's do it, and it motivated us. I can't say it didn't. It was like, yes, we have to do it. I opened the studio in 2015. It was, I think, 2014 where we met the Minister of Sports, begging him for a license to allow women to go to fitness facilities like men. And I remember at that point, thinking that, okay, this is. The minister was amazing. He said, yes, please, we should do this for women. Let's go ahead. And it was that easy, And I always say the story, and I'm sure people would heard of the story from me before, is that I asked him why is it so easy? Why are you just saying yes? I thought it was going to be a bigger struggle than this. And he simply said, no one asked. He said there was no woman who came over to the ministry and asked for licensing for gyms. But, I was like, okay. But at that time, and it was still a struggle. So he did say, yes, go ahead, let's start it, and let's try to create a legislation for it because there was nothing. And we started in 2015, and at that time it was like a struggle to get women trainers, a struggle to get Saudi women to take it as a career, and it was the whole struggle of an ecosystem that wasn't available. And then now with this transformation that's happened, it's I'm going to have to use this metaphor, but like now the ball is on our court, right? But it's just incredible, to see women in everything, it's in every type of sport you can imagine, and seeing women even opening up fitness facilities on every kind. I know men who are jealous from the women facilities. They come say, we don't have, a boxing studio only for men, or a Pilates or a yoga or a specialist in just a stretch lab, or things like that. But I think we've really, taken it to the next level. And it's really because it's available and women are there and they want it, but that transformation just empowered us even more and more.
I mean, I've trained with you, and I'm just going to say, like, it's not easy, especially kind of pre-Studio 55, and we were doing smaller classes together, and just, Tabata, which is like relentless when you're the instructor. And so I just want to say that you are definitely an inspiration, and I love that you've been recognized for that. And so I think you've been recognized for your work in that space by getting elected to or chosen to be part of different governance bodies, right? So thinking about your role in the Saudi Tennis Federation, your role in Qadisiyah, I'd love you to tell us a little bit more about the exciting progress of tennis in the country. Again, this is something we've talked about on the podcast. It's come to Saudi, especially for women, not without its controversy. So tell us about your experience with that and kind of what that role entails.
So the Saudi Tennis Federation, I'm a board member, so I'm part of the board. It's headed by Arij Mutabagani. The main goals of when we sat down, we're like, okay, this is going to be the first ever board for the Saudi Tennis Federation. Now there's clear laws and guidelines to what a federation is supposed to be. So we said, what is going to be our main goals? So we want to develop training programs to take players from a level of talent to elite. Today we have many talents in Saudi, but unfortunately they didn't have the systems and structures to support the performance of the elite athletes. So that's one of the biggest goals we have. And then also the other one, which we do a lot of, is enhancing the interest in tennis amongst the youth. So we work a lot with Sports for All, which is headed by Prince Khalid bin Walid. And it's basically community pop-up exercises, sports areas where there's all different sports, and we play a big role with them in tennis specifically to get the kids excited about it, and start grassrooting these talents from home. And then lastly and not least, but tennis is a global sport and a very big one, and the 2030 vision goals, attracting regional and international tourism is going to be, and hosting them in Saudi is going to be one of our major known events here, and which is going to create, a lot of interest in the country, and a lot of interest in sports for Saudi athletes, and also for the global athletes, and for them to come to Saudi. So I think that it's been like literally we started from nothing, and to see where it is today is just really rewarding. Yeah.
A sort of step back follow-up question to that, because I think you touched on a lot of those themes. One of the things that people outside of Saudi Arabia talk about when they talk about Saudi Arabia's sports, it's like actually the thing that dominates the headlines because of all the Saudi investments into sports. But if you're following Saudi Arabia, that like completely misses the point on all of the developments happening for Saudis. When you hear like criticisms of sports washing or, criticisms about Saudi Arabia investing in sports internationally, do you cringe and think about all the developments that are happening locally? Like how do you react to that?
But I think it's just, my reaction would be, it's just easier for people who don't know us and have interacted with us, who actually came here, to say that. Because when you see a lot of money thrown into PIF have done a lot of investments, which was great for us internally because it gave us the platform and opportunity to shine through. Like PIF has become partner with the ATP, which is the Association of Tennis, the Global Association of Tennis, for men and for women. And at that point, for us in Saudi Tennis Federation, we're like, yes, this is it. Now we can propel our strategies further. But I completely understand it, and I face this a lot. I have many people around I know in the sports scene, and when I meet other tennis federations, they're kind of like, oh yeah, so you're trying to improve your image now, and and all of that. And I'm saying maybe it is part of it. I'm not going to deny it. We're happy that this is happening too, so we do want to improve our image. But it's just, I won't say that I cringe, but I always say that come over and see it yourself. And and actually, as we speak, we're Saudi team for the first time are playing a Davis Cup in Jordan. Yesterday we won against Vietnam, so there is that happening, and we are trying as much as possible to communicate it to the world and see it, and we're trying to develop our own athletes. We're not there yet, but all of this is the ecosystem that we have in place right now is going to help us to move forward.
Maybe I actually want to ask a little bit more about that as well, in terms of the ecosystem and getting the athletes prepared and getting them ready to compete. Now that there is an awareness, and you've been a part of raising that awareness for women, but again, there's an awareness across the board within the kingdom on how important it is. There's been a lot more of these federations and organizations from a governance point of view, putting these together in order to really kind of build whatever is needed in order to get people prepared. And that's not something people are talking about outside the kingdom much. I know that they're focusing on all sports, but can you tell us a little bit more about who is leading that initiative, and within each federation, what that looks like and what kinds of efforts are being made to get more people involved in different sports?
So there are so many there. I can't say there is one body or person who is really leading it. It's really a collective effort that's happening. So Sports for All is a big part of it because they're the ones who lead the way for the grassrooting. So we're talking about people who never touched a racket, never saw a ball. Come in, let's show you how to do that, like literally. And that's one part. And there's other bodies that are under the Ministry of Sports that work with ministries of al-Qarawiyya, al-Amanat, and things like that, like municipalities.
It's
So
municipal and rural affairs, I
and
believe.
but basically, but that ministry works very close by with the Ministry of Sports to develop infrastructure, because that is the biggest thing. People want to play tennis. We don't have tennis courts, so how do we play tennis? But that's another on its own. Developing. There's a different body developing that, and then you have us who are in the federations who have the government facilities that are already in place that fall under also the Olympic Committee, because they want to develop the Saudi talents and athletes and get them trained to compete. And basically in those areas, that's where we are in, and we play a big role in it in terms of getting the correct technical teams, the trainers, the coaches, everything, and then ensure that we have that, and we do like different camps for them. So we take all those elite Saudi professional players, different age groups, make them play in different competitions, but that's also a full body that goes through it. So they do the local competitions, regional competitions, now going to the ATP Davis Cup competition. So it's like there is many small little efforts happening on different levels and trying to get these athletes ready.
I mean, can you share some stories about the types of struggles and some of the really more success stories from your participation in the federation?
So one of the stories is a young kid, 9 years old, who was in the little town outside Mecca, and there isn't the infrastructure for tennis courts there, or proper tennis courts. It was only like in private homes and all that. He had the opportunity to play with a friend who had the tennis court at home, and he went to there, and he was like 7 years old or something, and he just fell in love with it. And then he went on and on about it to his dad, like, I want to play tennis. It's like incredible. I want to do it. And this kid, 2 years throughout that, his father started like just get rid of his nagging to pursue it. and found out there was like dusty old tennis courts available in these facilities. And he got in touch with them. He's like, okay, let me just get any trainer, let him to play. And in those 2 years, really developed the talent of the kid. He was discovered in one of these community activities that we've done with Sports for All. And like literally, we have our coaches there. They keep their eyes on for like talents and stuff. But they were looking at this kid, and it's like, this kid is a natural. And we got him there out of that, and that it was. And his father's like, really? His family didn't took it seriously, you know. Now he's 12 years old. He's won 3 cups in his age group for Junior Cup regionally. He has so much potential. This kid, he's just an inspirational story to see someone from not the main city. And this is one story, but there are so many other stories who had the privilege of getting to have tennis courts and who have their parents who play tennis, so it is very well embedded into them. And they have really done it on their own with zero support from anywhere for them to also compete. But there's so many different stories in common with tennis.
No, I love that. I mean, you need to create the opportunity and getting it, I think it's so important to just talk about these stories on how we are getting young people involved. We're getting people involved for the first time ever in some of these sports because the opportunity is now there and because there's kind of an investment in that space. So I think that, that side of the story definitely needs to be highlighted and told more. Maybe I wanted to actually pivot a little bit and think about just really how the landscape is changing inside the kingdom. So I was reading about the new sports law, which, the Saudi Ministry of Sport issued a draft sports law, which when formally passed, would be the first comprehensive law governing sports in the kingdom and replace the kingdom's 1987 basic law for sports federations and the Saudi Olympic Committee. So can you tell us a little bit more about this and kind of, how it's kind of formalizing the sports sector and increasing participation?
Is a federation, a corporation, or is a nonprofit, but that in terms of its legal entity, there was no clarity of it. But the main objective was to have clarity for these federations. And beyond that, also beyond that legal clarity, it was really to strengthen the framework for the elite and professional sports. Because the thing is that, we've had, but they weren't really supported in terms of ensuring that they have the right coaches, establishing like rules of arbitration, promoting fair competition, having disciplinary rules for doping and other sport violations. But these kind of things, there was no clarity for it. So even as an athlete, they didn't feel safe to compete, or they didn't feel that they had clear parameters. So I think that was a big change in when they formalized those. One of the main goals from this was to ensure that the Ministry of Sport was granted authority to supervise these federations, verify compliance. So even us as Saudi Tennis Federation, we have to always verify with compliance with them, ensure that they're following whatever direction there is from them. But that made it very unified and also gave clarity to all the federations. And like you mentioned, the main objective of this was to increase participation. And to increase participation means that participation of the Saudis to get into sports, and also to make it attractive to foreign investments. So when there is a little bit more structure and regulations, foreign investments feel much more comfortable to invest also.
Was that a collaborative effort? I mean, like so many of the other laws that are happening in other sectors in Saudi Arabia that are being developed by the government now are done so in lockstep with the private sector because they really want the laws to not be opaque and they want them to sort of land correctly and have everybody sort of fit in. Was that a collaborative effort for the Ministry of Sport and the other people that are working on it? And I assume that's all part of the vision's quality of life, sort of drive to make people healthier. Were they in touch with stakeholders in the private sector?
Yes. Yeah. That I think the private sector played a very big role, and now with all the privatizations that's happening, more and more the government seeing the importance of private sectors being a stakeholder and having input, but they do play a very big role. Yeah.
So your track record really in making sports more accessible to women is tangible, first through Teema, your apparel brand, but also then through Studio 55. What has changed over the course of your journey?
But I think, yeah, women have changed a lot, and I think the bigger change is the families and the society that surrounds the woman. Because I remember a time where we had a cycling group, and we started cycling with like at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. in the morning, and there was a girl who joined the group who was completely covered, and she loved cycling, and she would come and do a cycle with us all the time. And then a few times I haven't seen her, and I would ask around about her, and she won't be responding in the group that we're in. I called her up and I said, what's up? What's wrong with you? Where are you? You're not coming to cycling anymore. Are you okay? Injured? Blah, blah, and all that. She's like, no, my dad found out and, he doesn't like me cycling. But I remember that was like, it just like killed me. And I'm like, no, you can't say that to me. Okay. So at that point, I'm like, okay, let me talk to your father. Let him make him feel safe that, we do it at a time that, there's no, it's not dangerous with cars. And I understand. And it's all girls, so he won't be, shouldn't be worried and all that. And she said, okay, you can give it a shot. And her father's a lovely guy, so I did speak to him. And he's like, yeah, I know, it's very kind of you. Thank you very much for calling. But no, it's not for me, And I was like, okay. And I said, do you exercise? Do you do anything? And he's like, I walk sometimes. I do walking. I'm a very, walker. I said, okay. I said, can I get one of my friends to contact you to try cycling? He's like, oh, yeah, okay, why not? Yeah, let him contact me. But I got another male cycling group to contact the father. And he went cycling with them. Like after I told him, keep on nagging on him. He needs to cycle. He needs to understand why his daughter's doing it. And I said, I'll give you anything. Actually, I did promise him something if he was able to get him on the cycling group. And he did. And he went on the cycling group, and the father just fell in love with it. And he was coming close to retiree, so he just felt like this is perfect for him. And he loves mornings and all that, and they went all out in the mornings. But he kept on coming. But he was the oldest guy on the cycling group, and he started getting better and better and better every week, doing longer stretches, and all of that. Then they do these trips outside, and he wants to go travel. So then I gave him a call, and I told him, I heard that you're on the cycling group now. And he said yes. And he told me, and by the way, I'm going tomorrow cycling with my daughter. And I was like, okay. And he said, and you're most welcome to join. And I said, okay. And I remember that we met up and we went together, and then the father came to me and he's like, I just want to say thank you. I didn't know what it meant to my daughter. And she's free to go cycling as much as she wants to, and and now and I want to do it also with my daughter. It's like our time together, because now everyone in the family doesn't get us, now they're both the cyclists. But this story is like in 2016, and today move forward to 2024, that I'm sure these stories still exist, but you'll see that there's just so much more appreciation for sports now from families. 2 days ago, we did a 5-day camp in Qadisiyah for the Girls Academy. And we told the mothers to come in like that. And then the mothers who came in their abayas, and then they come in and they have like their tea and coffee and watch their girls play. And then, they at the end of the game, and it was so hot, it was so humid, and the mothers are like, oh, we want to play too. And then the manager of the girls' academy, she's like, yes, sure, of course, let's go. And and they were like running and playing, and they're like, oh my God, they were experiencing stuff like this is such a different language that we haven't seen. And it happened so quickly in such a short time, so fast. To see that, you say it takes a generation. It didn't even take a generation. Literally, it was the same generation. They were here, they moved here. Like, okay, now we can do this. It's allowed. We can do it. We support it. But it's just incredible to see what women are doing today, and I think that the bigger thing is how the family support around it is.
That's very moving and really A great story and a great sentiment to share. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about that than Qadisiyah and like you were saying, there's the younger club. How is that? First of all, congratulations on the rebrand. Congratulations on your board appointment. It's all very exciting. So tell us a little bit more about Qadisiyah Football Club.
So Al Qadisiyah, it's a football club, and we also say it's a community sports club. So it's an SCC. We have football, obviously, is the main sport of the club, but we have over 17 sports for women, and I think around 22 sports for men. And we've won many medals in those different sports, in water polo, wrestling, like so many different sports. And even fencing, we had Saudi women who won the fencing. But I think, there's so many, for me personally, when me getting into Qadisiyah, first of all, I was like very, very, honored to be. I just felt like, okay, they really have recognized me at this point when I've been appointed to this, and especially that it's an Aramco-owned company right now. So when I got into it, I was blown away to see how much effort that went on in this club, in the different sports. And when we go talk about football, like literally the female football team was non-existent a year ago. So it was just a year ago, and we won 4th place in the league, which is incredible. They built a team in less than a year, and they built an academy, and now in the academy we have 4 different age groups under the age of 11, 13, 15, and 17. So, with these, just developing talent, basically developing talent for the main football team that we have. But that academy on its own is just incredible to see. It's just incredible to see what's going on right now. And in every aspect of sports for women, really, and you know what? Because like growing up, that's something that I really wanted. When you're as a kid, you see, all the, and I had a little access of that because, we were living in a compound, and so we had that sort of access where, we had access to the American school, so I went to Girl Scouts, and I had like a little bit of basketball growing up and things like that. But this is now all Saudis, parents, kids coming into this club, with their gear, and I just look at them, I'm like, oh my God, this is a dream come true. Like really a dream come true now.
And how about the trainers? Are they Saudi as well, or are you able to is there a mix? How does the recruitment process work there?
So mainly the trainers are expats. They come, the head of the girls team is from Greece, and she was on the national team of the women's Greek team. But unfortunately, we don't have that much of history in sports, perhaps to have those talents in Saudi. They are working very hard with the Ministry of Education to have different kind of sport management and in universities and colleges and stuff like that. But mainly, most of them are expats, and you will see also there are some homegrown talents that have played a very big role also specifically in female football for women. Baram al-Butairi is one of them, so someone that I really have very high respect for. So there are the Saudis, they're not. They are available, but very scarce. Yeah.
So I'm super curious about Al Qadisiyah, and in 2023 there was sort of a change in the Saudi Football Federation, and some teams were acquired by the PIF, and Al Qadisiyah became part of Aramco. And the team has sort of gone back and forth between the First League and the Pro League for a few decades, it really looks like. Is this kind of like a new dawn? I mean, Hanaa was like, you have to check out this celebration that's happening in the Eastern Province. And I was like, yeah, okay. And then I looked at a video. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a Dubai New Year's celebration thing going on. Is there like a bright future going ahead for Al Qadisiyah, do you think?
Ambitions are high. It's so exciting. Like I can't describe how exciting it is to be part of it. Al Qadisiyah being Aramco owned, and going back to your point about the PIF investing in the four top teams. They own 75% stake in those teams. And before that, in 22, when PIF had acquired Newcastle, who was bottom second in the English Premier League, and then we finished at fourth last season. So I think, with all of that, the ambition is so high, and Aramco taking over this is a very big step, because Aramco doesn't do sports, right? They do oil and everything else, but the sports is completely different. But they're putting a board of directors up for the Qadisiyah as a separate company it's a great move from Aramco, and the ambition is high, the investments are high, but we're also very realistic. Now that we have been promoted to the Premier League, of course, everyone is expecting us to get in the best players. I'm getting messages and calls from everyone. Oh, who's your next player? Who's your coach? Oh, Mourinho visited the Isra for the Spark event, and they're like, "Oh, you're signing Mourinho as a coach." We're like, "We're not signing with Mourinho. We're not." But the expectations are also very high too. And Qadisiyah, as it's an old club, old for Saudi, 1967. The people in Khobar town it has a following that is incredible. But you have people who are in their 70s, 80s, they're hounding me down saying, "We want to win, huh? We're going to win the next game." And I'm like, "Okay, it's not me," But the pressure is very high. But I'll tell you, we're super realistic. We're very excited. We're very ambitious. Our focus right now in the next 3 to 5 years is to build a team, and to build that team, and not building a team of getting the best names out there or the top players out there, but is creating that team spirit and developing that culture that is going to really differentiate us from everyone else. But that's really our biggest focus. We're targeting to be in the second 5 of the top 15 in the Saudi Premier League. So inshallah, we'll see. But that's where we are. It's very exciting now that even we've relaunched the branding of Qadisiyah. So we're trying to really, step up the game and get in action too. But it's super, super exciting. I feel like
Fatma,
I'm
were
Ted
you
Lasso
always?
now.
I love that. Were you always a Qadisiyah fan?
I think, and growing up, it was like the family team, I have to say. But now I am hardcore Qadisiyah. Yeah.
Well, so we were talking about this, and I was like, it's not really I'm super excited for it, and especially because again, now Aramco is investing in it. The rebrand and the celebration was amazing, and I actually know a lot of the board members, so that makes me excited too. But it wasn't my team growing up, and so I don't know enough about the rivalries. And how does that feel?
What's your team again?
Ittifaq.
Ittifaq. Yeah.
But how intense is that rivalry?
It's intense.
Okay. See, I don't know.
And I didn't realize how intense it is till I got
Thank
into
you.
it,
Okay.
because,
So not just
so when I get now, my ex feed is all that, so I keep on following that, and I'm like, whoa, my God, these people are intense, and you have I have one of our board members is from Al Zabid, and I met another Zabid who was in an Ittifaq, and he's saying that, oh, so now you're Qadisawiyah, and I'm like, aren't you? You're your cousins with us, And for him, he was like, no, we're not. When we come to that, we don't talk about it. I'm like, okay, that's but it is intense in that perspective, and Ittifaq is in the Premier League, so that's going to put even more pressure.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I know more about the English Premier League rivalries just because this is what I live and breathe with my son at home. And he can tell me a little bit more about the Saudi Premier League because of FIFA and playing it online. But obviously the sentiment, you don't get that until you're in the middle of it. And it wasn't something I talked about much. I could see my dad get really excited when I was younger about the Ittifaq playing, but I mean, that's kind of, yeah.
I think it's time to make a switch, Hannah. I think you got to switch over.
No, God, no. Hardcore Ittifaqiyya, khalas. I'm going to learn what that's supposed to look like, too.
You started a female-only or a female-owned sporting and athletic, athleisure, I guess you would say, brand. before like women were really participating in sports in public. So like how did you that's like super fascinating. How did you market it? And can you tell me about that experience?
I am a person who is not very fashionable. I'm like black, white, very neutrals. Yeah, I'm not a person who comes out with a fashion. So for me to say that, people come to introduce me like, oh, she has a fashion brand, I'd be like, oh no, don't say fashion, But the reason why it came up is because in 2012, there was like a crackdown on all the non, if any activity that is happening under a license that it doesn't match was closed. So, for example, you have a Moroccan bath happening in a beauty salon, but they don't have that activity within it. They're going to close down the Moroccan bath. And what fell part of it was also fitness facilities. But there weren't any legal fitness facilities, but under a umbrella of a women's center or an English learning center, they would have a little area with a gym or whatever equipment. So, and at that time, and when I came, and I'm telling you, I came back to Saudi and I wanted to like educate people about what I found out about exercising and all that. I used to use those places, to reach to these women because there are women who are already going to exercise. And that's where I had developed like my skill of coaching and training. And I was doing this as a part-time thing. So when they closed down all these places, I became very furious. And at that point, X, which then was Twitter, was a very active platform until today. And I started like saying that, we have to have clarity. We can't close down these places and not even know how we're going to reopen them, where women are going to exercise. We can't do it outdoors. And I started to become very vocal about it. And then unfortunately that when I saw the response on Twitter, I was getting negative response from women more than men saying, who do you think you are? Like, you were Western ideas. You want to have women wearing shorts and music. And, like they pictured it in a very horrible way. And I was like, I was just really hurt by it, and it really escalated to the point where I literally closed myself at home. I didn't leave home. I was really depressed. I was like, okay, that's it. I'm not going to talk about it. I had family members calling me up and saying, can you like stop talking about this thing? It's not really important. And, like literally I had family members. I'm like, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not opening a illegal nightclub. It's a female only fitness facility. I think that was very frustrating. But that, and then literally the idea of Teema came up because the one thing in all the era of Saudi women they're good at is fashion. They love to dress up. Even, and what's her name? The one under the abaya. I don't know if you've ever got her books. She does these different editions
Miriam,
of
I
Under the
think. Miriam
Abaya.
mostly.
Maryam Mossadegh, yeah, Maryam
Yeah.
Mossadegh. But she has, like, literally, I said that's the epiphany of Saudi women. Women are covered here because of the abaya, not as much as before now, but they were always very fashionable. So even the ones who are not going to the gym, they will have fitness apparel that made them look good. But then I used this as a story, or like that was my anchor of saying that why a Saudi brand for fitness? Why? Because of this story. But it became my tool to reach to women, and it was incredible of how many women who reached out because I started developing these styles and designs from women that I trained. And I called them, like, I had faith line because of a lady called Iman, which means faith in Arabic. I had like different lines of light, Noor, but different like names of girls, women that I trained from all around, and they, and that's where the lines came from. What they preferred, what colors, and all of that. And then suddenly I get reached out from women in Jizan and like south of Saudi Arabia, which I've never been to at that time, and they're telling me, "Oh, we want your apparel here." And I'm like, "Why? Why do you exercise there? Do you have gyms?" Like, no, but we try to do something at home, and it'll be great to have it, and we want to wear something that's Saudi and share that story. So it became that, and it just like really snowballed from there.
Yeah, Mabruk. That's such a cool story. And sharing stories like yours in general is why Hannah and I are doing this podcast. So thank you very much, because this was really, really amazing.
A wonderful privilege to have you on today, and we really appreciate your time and your insights.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time. I really enjoyed it.
Let's get to the news. Saudi reinsurance company boosts capital by $71 million through PIF subscription deal. According to a statement on Tadawul, Saudi reinsurance company inked on July 4th a binding subscription agreement with the PIF. On October 2023, Saudi Re signed a non-binding MOU with PIF, and under that agreement, PIF subscribed to new cash shares in Saudi Re by way of capital increase while suspending preemptive rights of the current shareholders. The binding subscription agreement signed on July 4th, as I just mentioned, will see the kingdom's first reinsurance company raise its capital from 891 million rials to 1.15 billion rials. This increase will be achieved through the issuance of 26.73 million new ordinary shares, each valued at 10 rials, according to a recent Bourse filing, I believe, on the Tadawul.
The transaction will give PIF a 23% ownership stake in the company following the capital increase, and finalization of the capital increase is subject to approvals from regulatory bodies, including the Insurance Authority, Capital Market Authority, Saudi Stock Exchange, and the company's Extraordinary General Assembly.
We talked about this last week in your deep dive on the IMF, but the PIF recently just swung to a huge profit after having some losses the year before. So it's just kind of interesting that this news now comes out. The PIF is a very adaptable organization, which can, with a large war chest, make very substantial investments, especially if they can, into local Saudi companies to sort of enhance the local content, enhance the local market. They're investing for profit, of course, but it's just kind of good to see this and to share this news because, very good news for Saudi Re as well. So it's just an interesting piece of news.
Yeah. Royal decree grants citizenship to several scientists, doctors, researchers, and entrepreneurs. The kingdom has offered citizenship to talented individuals in medical, scientific, cultural, sports, and technical fields to achieve its goals. The initiative is part of Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 program to create an attractive environment for investing in human capital and attracting skilled labor. The move is expected to help bolster the kingdom's economic, health, culture, sports, and innovation sectors by bringing prominent experts and specialists in.
Yeah, this announcement was made in line with a royal decree to grant Saudi citizenships to experts, exceptional global talents, unique competencies in religious, medical, scientific, cultural, sports, technological fields. It's essentially a way to attract and retain talent in the kingdom, and that helps these people to contribute to the vision and contribute to the transformation. That's the subject of this podcast. And it creates an attractive environment that enables attracting investment and really keeping people around. If they come into Saudi Arabia, set up a business, or are operational in Saudi Arabia and want to live there, and they're directly contributing to the vision, this solidifies that. I mean, in this list of people, Islam Zween, CEO of Argam, Mahmoud Khan, Dr. Mahmoud Khan, CEO of the Evolution Foundation, a friend, Jackie Y. Ying, Chair, Bioengineering and Nanomedicine Department at the King Faisal Specialist Hospital and Research Center, which is just a terrific organization. You have Naveen Kassab, founding member of KAUST, Noreen Ghafoor, Water Desalinization and Reuse Center at KAUST. The list goes on. Dr. Mutasem Azubi, chief pediatric neurosurgery at King Abdullah Specialized Children's Hospital. A couple of entrepreneurs are on here. Rami Al-Qasimi, CEO of Maldouj.com. Never heard of that, but he's a Saudi now. And then, of course, you have Ahmed Mirghani, partner at BIM Ventures. So this is this is good. Yeah.
Ahmed Mirghani was an intern for me back in the day, so I was super excited to see that news, and congratulations to him.
Amazing. Did you text him? Congrats.
I posted it on LinkedIn. So
you did? Oh,
did I
miss that? Uh-oh.
No,
No,
I didn't
it's cool.
post. I congratulated him. I congratulated him on LinkedIn. I was really happy to see that news because I've known him since he was, a university student. So it was very great.
And look,
Really
this
happy.
directly sort of tackles the challenge of becoming, like, what does it mean to become Saudi? Like, what does it mean to be a Saudi? And these people are not Saudis, but they're part of the Saudi transformation, the Saudi experiment. They have a very high stake in what's going on. So this is a way to just keep these people, fold them into what's going on. So this is a great piece of news, and there are more announcements like this coming in the future, I'm sure. Just congrats to these guys that are living there, that are contributing to what's going on. I think it's a really cool thing.
Definitely.
News item number 3 this week that we want to talk about: Saudi Canadian Business Council established amid economic revival following a 5-year suspension. Saudi Chambers of Commerce has announced the final formation of the Saudi Canadian Business Council for its new term, appointing Mohammed Al-Salim as its president and Abdullah Al-Yami and Abdullah Al-Ahmed as vice presidents. A significant development in Saudi-Canadian economic relations comes, of course, after a 5-year suspension of joint business activities, missions, and trade delegations between the two nations.
Mohammed Al-Salim, president of the Saudi Canadian Business Council, highlighted that the council's formation aligns with the positive developments in Saudi-Canadian relations, aiming to reopen avenues for economic cooperation between the two countries. The council will focus on promoting Saudi and Canadian business activities, fostering commercial partnerships, exploring new areas of economic collaboration, and exchanging information about markets and opportunities in both nations.
Yeah, I mean, Saudi Arabia and Canada have a long trade history. And obviously it was suspended for 5 years as part of a diplomatic spat between the two nations. And you're seeing that in the rear view now. Canada is a huge exporter of military hardware, and Saudi Arabia received $1.15 billion in Canadian military exports in 2022, making Saudi Arabia the largest non-U.S. customer of Canada's hardware. Saudi Arabia accounts for around 54% of the total value of non-U.S. military exports from Canada, which is insane. Armored vehicles constituted a big part of Canada's exports to Saudi. Of course, that's just on defense. They have a lot of opportunities between the two nations to expand their trade. I know a lot of Saudis have and are studying in Canada. So you have a kind of a soft power relationship thing going on where a lot of Saudis are going to live in Canada for a while and then they go back to Saudi Arabia to apply what they've learned. And so this is just good to see. As an American that's a friend of Canada. So this is cool.
Yeah. And that was suspended for some time, the scholarships and the studying abroad in Canada, and all of it's come back again, which is great. So it's really nice to see that the revival of the trade and business relationship happening as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good.
Saudi and Turkey strengthen cooperation in real estate and infrastructure. The Minister of Municipal Rural Affairs and Housing, Majid Al-Hagail, concluded his official visit to Turkey, which aimed to enhance cooperation between the two countries in real estate development, road infrastructure, waste management, and recycling. The visit was also sought to create new alliances between Saudi and Turkish contractors in these sectors.
Yeah. So while in Turkey, Al-Hagail also attended a bunch of roundtable meetings between Saudi and Turkish representatives to sort of oversee and overview investment opportunities, especially in the real estate sector. But earlier this year, there was this sort of big visit with several Saudi officials visiting Turkey. And this was in March. And there was a sort of an announcement from Turkey saying, hey, look, we are ready to sort of continue to embrace Saudi Arabia as a key partner, a key trading partner. Turkey hailed the pace of advancements in relations with Saudi Arabia, and this was, again, at the beginning of the year, and called it 2024 a golden year in economic times for the kingdom. So we're sort of seeing this as like the next step with Majid Al-Hagail over in Turkey. Exports rose from Turkey 150% year over year to Saudi Arabia, $2.6 billion, and they're sort of eyeing a massive expansion of that. They want to reach $10 billion in the medium term and $30 billion in the long term. God willing, 2024 will take its place as a golden year in the economic relations between Turkey and Saudi Arabia. We will see, but I mean, this is really good for yet another international or yet another nation of Saudi Arabia that had a sort of falling off diplomatically, and you're seeing them come back to the table and explore economic opportunities together. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's always very nice to see reparations happen, and it's also very important to consider certain conflicts to be temporary.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool to see. There was also a very unflattering story about Turkey in the Financial Times I was reading today about how they are trying to get the rabid dog population under control in Turkey. And very interesting piece if you're looking for a fascinating read. I will just leave it at that and move on to a subject of international interest, which is new footballers headed to the Saudi Pro League. Manchester City midfielder Kevin De Bruyne, 33, has verbally agreed to join Saudi Arabian side Al Ittihad and is now up to the Premier League champions to approve the departure of the famous Belgian. Man U have given midfielder Bruno Fernandes, 29, permission to open talks with Saudi Arabia, with 2 clubs in the Saudi Pro League interested in the Portuguese international. It's also reported that Man City are increasingly concerned they will lose Ederson to the Saudi Pro League this summer. Al Nassr, who already have Cristiano Ronaldo, you may have heard of him, and Aymeric Laporte on their books are offering the Brazilian keeper a bank bulging £900,000 a week to join them. That is more than 4 times the amount that he pockets at the Etihad. Wow.
I mean, I would really like to see some of the Man City players leaving, open up some space for Arsenal to really, capture first place next year, which I'm confident they will do in the British Premier League. But anyway, De Bruyne actually is one of these names that I hear around my house a lot. So whenever he is playing against Arsenal, we're not very happy because he's quite a good player. So it would be great, I think, for him to go into one of the Saudi teams. I think some people are also leaving. So Alan Saint-Maximin could leave the Saudi Pro League after just 1 season as a clear favorite for his signature emerges. In Jeddah, he counts the likes of Mahrez, Firmino, and Mendy as teammates, but Al Ahly could only finish 3rd in the Saudi Pro League this last season, so he may be leaving after just 12 months within the kingdom. But clearly they're attracting many others, so I think it would be a loss for a bit, and then maybe not so horrible.
Well, he may go and play and love it. Yeah. It's funny because you texted me about the England's win.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say congratulations, but I just said congratulations to your 2 sons who are born. Were they born in England?
No, they've just grown up here. They're both definitely, they're just British because they live here. They feel British, right? But they're Saudi, and they were born in Saudi. Both of them in
cool.
Khobar.
So I'm not congratulating you because you're an American and a Saudi, and I'm going to hold on to that. But that is very cool. I know everybody's watching those now. I am not. I had no idea what you were talking about when you said England. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. But anyway, very cool. And you're just kind of seeing with this sort of momentum that the Saudi Pro League has. There was speculation that they would have this big jump at the beginning and sign all these amazing players and then just see what happens with the development of like the local talent and the league itself. It's very clear that at least for another year or 2 or maybe more, the investments into the league are going to continue. They're going to keep bringing in these big players. They're going to boost the league to be something that is internationally very interesting for people to follow. They've done TV deals now to get these games on. As you know, Dr. Hanaa, when you're in Saudi Arabia and these games are on, it is amazing to see basically zero traffic anywhere because everyone is watching them. So this is really very good to see. And yeah, they're going to keep working on the Saudi Pro League to be something that's internationally recognized as excellent. So congrats to them.
Can we get some of that 900? Well, how much was it?
900,000 £900,000 a week.
A week?
A week.
I mean.
So what are we looking at? Like $220 million. I guess the way it works though is that is a week like the week that the season's going on. So he's not making 220 million pounds a year. It's just however many weeks that he's playing. Okay, I think that's how it is. Correct us if we're wrong. I'm now talking about soccer and have no idea, football, excuse me, and no idea what I'm talking about. But that is a lot. We will take some of that money, no problem at all. I will blow it very quickly. Yeah.
People sometimes are like, what would you do with all that money? And I'm like, trust me, I could figure it out. I mean, there's obviously a big portion of it that would have to go to charity. And then the rest of it, I'm sure I could spend. I'm sure.
No, I'm spending it all. Yeah, every last dollar spent on me and my vanity. Yeah. And you know what? We'd probably pump some money into this podcast as well. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding, of course. But that's just, and what does Ronaldo make? He makes an insane amount. It's like $250 million total for a few years. Something like that. Yeah, I mean, I could do some damage to that money. I'm not going to lie to you guys.
But you know, like in the literature talking about jobs, and which is kind of what I like to research, they call them lottery jobs, right? Like you have no idea whether or not you're going to be that famous footballer, even if you're super talented. It's just there aren't enough spots to go around for everybody, and there's the talent, there's the luck, there's getting spotted, there's all that investment in it. So like, it'd be great if we could like develop the skill to be paid that much, but I think it's so tricky. You need to not gamble on your future if you're trying to think about what your kids should do. Like, train them in the sports, but also make sure they have a stable job. That's how I see it.
So yeah, I'm taking the opposite track. No school for Pierce and Coco or any of my children. I'm getting them right into some like niche sport or some sort of hobby, and they're just excellent at that. They're very one-dimensional. They only talk about that, and then they either make it or they don't. But obviously, I think on that note, well done, Dr. Hanaa. Episode 20 coming up next week. We are going to be really hitting our stride, as we have been recently throughout the summer and into the future. So we're very excited that everybody's here with us. We just want to thank you guys for listening and watching what we're doing. It's awesome. And thank you, Dr. Hanaa, for a terrific episode.
Thank you. Thank you, Lucien.